Hey, you're listening to the Road to a Billion podcast. I'm your host, Stefan Georgi, and I'm glad to have you with me here today on this special bonus edition. The Road to a Billion is a call-in radio show style podcast where you can ask myself and my guests questions about freelancing, copywriting, entrepreneurship, mindset, scaling, relationships, money, and really pretty much anything. The reason for the name The Road to a Billion is twofold. One is because I have sold around $1 billion worth of stuff now with both with my own products and brands and for clients, honestly more so for the clients, but either way. And also the goal is to make an impact in the lives of 1 billion people over the next 10 years. So we'll start taking calls in about 30 minutes from now. And when we do that, you'll be able to put questions into Zoom in the Q&A section, and myself and my guests will answer some of them. And those will be moderated by my great friend, Ed Reay, who is our co-host. Ed, do you want to go ahead and say hello and introduce yourself to everybody here?
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Ed Reay, and I help people grow their businesses without sacrificing their voice or their integrity.
Perfect. Thank you, Ed. And in addition to Ed, we have an awesome guest today, who is the legendary Mr. Craig Clemens. So I'm going to read Craig's bio off a bit, but then we'll jump right into it. For over 15 years, Craig Clemens has been an e-commerce innovator, brand storyteller, and visionary builder of category-leading brands. As a copywriter, he's run many of the biggest digital ad campaigns in history, generating hundreds of millions of video views and upwards of $1 billion in sales. Presently, Craig is co-founder of Golden Hippo, America's largest digitally native brand incubator, which under his leadership has become one of the fastest growing companies in the USA, scaling to an 800-person team across 5 offices with no outside investor capital. Prior to Golden Hippo, Craig founded Breakthrough Media, a digital advertising company which reached $3 million in annual revenues with just 3 employees. He's been in online e-commerce since 2003 as a copywriter, and also is a philanthropist as well. Craig and his wife, Sarah, are longtime well members of Charity Water. They funded over 1,200 cleft lip surgeries through a partnership with the Smile Train and Beverly Hills MD. And they have built education centers in Guatemala, Kenya, through partnerships with the Unstoppable Foundation and Pencils of Promise. So Craig, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Long time coming.
I know, I'm stoked. I'm really excited. I know you're a very busy man, and it's just wonderful to have you on. So are you, you're in LA right now? Is that where you are?
I am, yes.
Excellent, cool. So Craig, I have a lot I want to cover, and I want to give people the opportunity to ask questions as well, but maybe we'll start in the beginning because it's so interesting. Golden Hippo is fairly well known in the world of digital marketing and e-commerce and direct response and all those different roles. And but if we go way back, how did you first kind of discover the world of digital marketing, advertising, and more specifically, I guess, direct response marketing?
Yeah, well, I started off as a telemarketer. I feel like I've told this story a lot, so I don't want to tell the whole saga again. But the short story is that I was dialing for dollars, interrupting people during their dinners, and when I was doing that, you have a script that you say to people when you call them, and I would write these scripts for myself to use, and they would work. And then other people in the company would steal them and use them to sell their folks on the phone, and that made me angry, but. I guess it was a compliment to the scripts. Yeah, exactly. I was getting swiped, someone said in the comments.
Never stops.
Yeah, it really does. So that was interesting. And then I was bouncing from one dead-end telemarketing job to another. I was really fortunate. I met Eben Pagan through a friend, and he had just started Double Your Dating, which a lot of people know. And I convinced him to hire me. And I go on his website, and he's got this long form sales letter talking to men about how reading this ebook is going to help you get dates and find a girlfriend and, all the other fun stuff. And I realized that what he had there was the same type of thing I'd been working my ass off, making 200 calls a day to pitch to people. And here he just put it up on a webpage and was sending thousands of people to it a day. And the conversion rate wasn't quite as high, but you didn't have to interrupt anybody during dinner and have them tell you to fuck off. So it was pretty appealing to see the power of salesmanship leveraged. So I went and started working for him. I actually didn't start working as a copywriter, though. I was doing customer support at first and managed the affiliate program. I bought some of the online media. I was contacting other website owners to trade links. If people are old school in internet marketing, you'll remember that if you had inbound links, it would make your site rank higher in Google. So, that was one of the other things I did. And I didn't start writing copy there probably 2 years down the line, but he had introduced me to Gary Halbert, and I was reading Gary Halbert's newsletters, and I loved Gary's newsletters. And I was living in San Diego, and I was throwing parties. And when I would throw an invite up to a party, I would type it in Gary Halbert-style. And I started to get a lot of people enjoying my party invites, and a lot of people would show up to the parties too. So that got me excited about the idea of writing copy myself. And then Evan gave me a shot writing bullets. So bullets aren't as much of a thing today as they used to be. But if you remember long form static sales letters, most of those will have a bullet section with the teaser lines in there. And he had me start with the bullets. And I'd sit in the back of the room during the seminars that he'd do, so for example, like Meeting Women Online would be a seminar he'd do for a weekend, and we'd be making a course called Meeting Women Online. And I'd sit in the back and I'd write down the concepts, and then I'd try to shape them into bullets. So he'd talk about, what your profile should say. And I'd find, the 3 words to add to your profile that double the amount of responses you'll get to your emails, things like that. So I'd try to take his big concepts, turn them into bullets. And I remember the first seminar I did, it was Meeting Women Online. I wrote this 3 pages of bullets, and I was supposed to send them to Evan. And I thought, before I send them to Evan, I'm going to send them to our CEO of the company, this guy named Rob, and ask him which were his favorites so I could cut out the crappy ones. And I sent them to Rob, and he wrote me an email back, and I was all excited to open it up and see what his favorite bullets are. And it said, Craig, to be honest, I don't really like any of these bullets. Can we talk on the phone? And I talked on the phone. This guy wasn't even a copywriter, but he told me how crappy my bullets were and how unappealing and, not catchy. But, I went back and I rewrote. And then I started looking at John Carlton's sales letters and Yannick Silver's sales letters. And I started swiping their formulas, but putting my own words in. So John Carlton would have, the 7-word sentence to add to your order page that increases your closing ratio. And I'd be like, well, is there a place where Eben said 7 words to say to a woman? I'd be like, here it is. The 7 words to say to a woman in your initial email that make her excited to actually go on a real life date with you. So I was borrowing back then. And yeah, that's how it all started. And I think these kids today, not starting with bullets, you miss a big chunk of the learning, because the bullets teach you how to write very concise. They teach you how to cut out the crap. And they also, most importantly, teach you how to grab attention in a way that's so strong. I mean, we would always say that people will buy the product just because of one bullet. And you never know what that bullet's going to be. I think Gary Halbert has this famous story. I'm probably going to butcher this, but something like he put out this some health course or something like that. And one of the bullets said like legal cocaine, make it in your own home or something like that. And that ended up being the reason everyone was buying it. So, you never know what people are going to buy for. So you got to really tune in and make these bullets amazing. So I started with straight bullets, and that was all I was good at writing for the first little stretch too. I remember I would then write these email promos to sell our interview series, where Evan would interview a dating guru every month. And that was $29.95. See, you kids today got it easy. Podcasts are free. Back then, you had to pay $29.95 to get one interview from someone. And that was quite a business, actually, too, reoccurring revenue. So I would write the email that would sell that every month to our existing dating list. And I would just listen to those interviews, and I just come up with the best, 10 to 15 bullets. And the email would be really simple. It'd be like, hey, I just interviewed a fascinating dating expert, but what's more interesting is what he shared. Here's what you're going to learn. And I'd just put the zingers in there, and that would get people to sign up for the interview series. So I think bullets are super critical. And now people go straight to video sales letters, and you don't get that because there's not as many bullets in video sales letters. In fact, there's sometimes 0. And they, while they don't have bullets, in another sense, everything is a bullet. If you're writing good copy, every single sentence should have the purpose of making the person that's reading it or viewing it super damn intrigued to feel the effects of your product. Every single one needs to have a purpose, you know? I mean, yeah, there's some setups and things like that, but that's what bullets teach you. So when I train writers, I tell them, hey, go write a ton of bullets for, you know, whatever this is. Even though you might not use them, even though you might not put them in your video, it'll give you some hooks that you can use in your close. You can use it in your opening. You can use it in the product copy, things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't remember what your question was or how I went on that tangent.
I don't know, but it was good. It was good. No, it makes sense. How do you get started? But the bullet thing, it makes sense. I mean, even for myself, and when I was first I always tell people when I feel like I first started to get good at copy, it was because somebody gave me the Screaming Eagle newsletter with like Clay Makepeace and Tony Flores, and it was like the 21 different like bullet types, right? And it was like they were like study these different types of bullets, and then it was for an info product, they were like write something crazy like 20 or 30 fascinations or bullets for each of the 21 types. So it was like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And I remember thinking that the assignment was so like stupid at first, and then having a lot of fun, but also struggling, but then realizing suddenly there was like this magic secret weapon I had that I could work into copy, because to your point, it hooks people. And even if your big idea in your lead kind of like only half hits, like if you have some bullets, even in the lead, right? And it's like, I almost say it's like, here's your big hook, and then your fascinations and bullets are these little tiny hooks. And it's like, maybe the fish swims past that baited hook here, but then sees one of those other little tiny hooks that has one of your bullets, and they grab onto that one. That could be enough to pull them into the rest of the copy. And all the things I've ever read that you've written, you're really good at the curiosity element.
Well said. I love the way you describe that, and that's so true.
Thanks, man. Yeah, well, a question I guess as we move forward into creating Golden Hippo and Gundry MD. I remember when those first Gundry MD offers kind of came out. It was funny because at first I was almost like jealous, because I'm like, well, it's really good copy, but he just like, he took an accomplished doctor and he made it so it's high production value, and then wrote it so that it could run on Facebook, and so and then of course it's doing really well, and then I had that moment of, right, cool, and who else did that? I was like, oh, nobody else did that. Craig did that, and the copy itself is excellent. The offers are great, the products are great, all of that. But I had to have my ego check for a minute, because it was almost such a good idea, and almost, I don't mean obvious in like any way offensive way. It was such like a no-brainer to do what you did. It was so smart to do it. And it was the jealousy of like, I didn't think of it, nobody else thought of it, you did. So I'm curious, when as that came about, was it really intentional? Just like, let's create a high production value, high quality sort of brand with like a great doctor, that we're partnered with? Or how did you kind of conceive of Gundry MD and sort of the style that Golden Hippo has become well known for?
Well, yes, it was absolutely deliberate, and thanks for the compliments. When we started in this space, we saw two worlds divided. We saw the nicely branded supplements that you would see at GNC or Vitamin Shop, that had no online marketing. And then you'd see the white bottle that someone wrote the name on, and had great marketing, but it was also greatly aggressive marketing for what was in it. And we thought, wow, if this well-branded approach could be mixed with strong marketing principles, you're going to have a huge advantage over the people in GNC, because they don't know any of this. And you're going to have a huge advantage over the people that are doing the aggressive stuff and the lower quality products, because we could tell what direction the networks were going in and what direction the world is going in. I mean, someone only needs to buy one of those to not fall for it again, And so we always, had a rule that we would make best in class products and make them feel branded in a way that would let people know that it's the same quality stuff that's on those shelves, except now you can get it direct to consumer and direct from the doctor.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, it was just this huge hole in the market, and in hindsight, it seems like obvious, but at the time it wasn't. And I think
Yeah. Well, you know who else? You know who else does this really well, but in a totally different way, is MLMs. So MLMs are beautiful branding. The successful ones.
right.
It's amazing branding. And it's actually meshed with a very hard sales pitch. It's a different kind of sales pitch because it's like, hey, do you want to make money and get healthy at the same time while working around your schedule?
Right.
I know you just met me and you're pumping your gas, but just listen to what I have to say. I mean, like, what the fuck? Who's this? But it works, right? I mean, these MLMs are huge, so it's like, it's then when they get someone's attention and they open up the brochure, they're like, oh, Herbalife, this sounds really legit. It's been around for 20 years. It's got these, doctors in the medical advisory panel. This is real deal stuff. And there's actual people making real money here. Okay, I might give this a try. Versus if someone was coming to you with an MLM pitch and they were like, yeah, this is the product. And then it looks like, I mean, I don't know. I don't have any crappy looking products on my desk. I got some nice ones. What if they're like, if they have some crappy looking thing, you're gonna be like, okay, this is a total scam. But if they're saying, hey, you can make money here and it's really healthy, and they pull up some beautiful product and you're like, oh, interesting. That looks just like the things that I saw in GNC. You mean I can take that and offer it to other people? Oh yeah, you can. And it's actually better. These are the reasons why, because MLM people know how to build good hooks into their products as well. So they're masters of that.
Yeah, so really, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I haven't, but it makes perfect sense. One more, I want to get to some other stuff too, like BitClout and variety of things, and then we won't be able to cover everything today anyway. But I'm thinking about one interesting thing you told me when I was writing for you guys. You talked about how you're like, when I try to write every piece so that somebody who's never seen a direct response piece before, never seen like a sales letter, who's never thought about buying, will be engaged in the place where they're going to buy. Like you sort of, what I got from it, maybe I just misinterpreted it and I've been misinterpreting it since that conversation, was almost that you were going to it's almost a pretty broad market where almost anybody can come into what you've created, right? Like your video sales letter or your funnel and get sucked in. And on one hand, you think, well, yeah, sure, of course. But then on the other hand, you're like, well, yeah, but what about the levels of, market awareness and, kind of niching down and all of that. And so I'm just curious if you could elaborate a little bit on that philosophy of yours and how it does play into that versus really being super hyper targeted with who you go after with an offer.
Yeah, it's a great question. So one thing I'm proud of at Golden Hippo is I think we've probably gotten more people in the United States to take their first supplement than any other company. Because if you think about it, most people are not exposed to this. If you're in a rural area, you got your grocery store that's got, maybe like a little vitamin section. And I mean, it's a lot better than it was 10 years ago. Now at least you probably find probiotics in every corner of America. But, back then you didn't have much, you might have your Centrum and your, Flintstones vitamins, maybe Hydroxycut weight loss or something like that, or Garcinia Cambogia would make it in there, but not high quality supplements. And so does that mean that people don't need them just because, the thing has got 20 different probiotic strains that are written in Latin and Greek that people don't know? Does that mean that it's only good for biohackers or the people in Venice Beach? No, I mean, everyone can benefit from some of these high quality nutrients, right? So when I am sitting down to write a promo, that's something else I think about is what is the information gap? And when there is a big information gap, which I also call educational opportunity, I think it's a good market to go into. So probiotics was a great example of that. I started taking probiotics myself in 2013. I'd never heard of them before. I couldn't pronounce anything on the bottle, but I felt a difference when I was taking them. And so what is the difference? Well, I learned that the stuff I was eating had added sugars and sweeteners and preservatives in it. And that stuff made bad bacteria grow in my stomach, and that these probiotics were good bacteria. All those names were names for good bacteria. So I just gave you a layman's explanation of probiotics. But if you go up to someone in the street and you're like, hey, have you taken some lactobacillus coagulans? Because that is really what you need if you want to readjust the composition of your gut flora in your microbiome. They'd be like, well, we speak English around here. What was that? Right. So that's the same thing you're saying, but you gotta meet the market where it's at. So when we got in the probiotics market, most people didn't know what probiotics were. And so that was something that we would try to do. And the banners of the time would say things like the root of all stomach problems was a good one, because everyone can relate to a stomach problem.
Right.
And then, as most people I'm sure listening know, we were very early in probiotics. We were one of the biggest sellers of probiotics in the world, and definitely in the United States in 2014, and up on the next few years. And there was a movement going on. So there was things like Kavita soda, which had probiotics in it. All the yogurt companies were advertising probiotic benefits. People were educated. And so now you can walk down the street and most people know what a microbiome is. And most people know what probiotics are. So a few years later, a banner we were using says, doctor says, throw your probiotics away. And be like, oh, interesting. You got all this stuff that's saying the probiotics are great for you. And then this one was now, in 2017, meeting the market where it's at now, where everyone is hearing about these probiotics. And this doctor is saying something different, so it's all about meeting the market where the market is. And to be able to do that, I think you got to pay attention to what's going on. So I never stop reading ads. Every 6 months I buy a Cosmopolitan magazine and a Woman's World, and I read it cover to cover. I don't read all the articles, well, sometimes I'll read the, hot sex tips and things like that. But, you gotta watch the market where it's at. You gotta go on the consumer websites in your niche. If you're in health, it might be Mind Body Green. If you're in finance, it might be the Reddit forums, or Seeking Alpha, or, whatever it is. So you gotta know what the market is familiar with, what's basic knowledge and what's advanced knowledge. And if something's advanced, you got to learn how to speak to them at a basic level to convey that message. And this is exactly the same thing, but being more granular on how you speak to someone. I always love the story of how Gary Halbert in his lectures would say you have to write at a 6th grade reading level. And I'm sure everyone's heard that, and you can now use plenty of tools to see what level your writing's at. But the thing I love about this story is that back in Gary's day, there was no tools. It was just you guessing if it was a 6th grade reading level. And so after Gary Halbert passed and these tools were around, someone said, I wonder if Gary was really practicing what he preached, because he was selling stock trading. He was selling some, advanced weight loss, things like that. I mean, Gary Halbert was selling Garcinia Cambogia back in like the 80s or something. So someone went and took his sales letters and they stuck it into one of these apps. And they said that Gary was not writing at a 6th grade reading level. He was writing at a 3rd grade reading level. So there you go.
That's amazing.
And people, I've talked to them about this too. So, it sounds like we're going to talk about BitClout at some point. I talked to a BitClout developer the other day who is building a project on the platform, and I was reading his white paper, which is super intense crypto DeFi stuff that I can't even understand. And I was explaining to him like this. I was saying, look, you're smarter than most of the people that are going to read this. That said, even really smart people don't want something that makes their brain churn to read. They want something that's easy to read, easy to digest. That's why a book like The Alchemist is going to be popular among brilliant folks to average folks alike, because it's written in such a just easy to absorb manner.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. We are going to BitClout. I've got maybe just a couple more questions before we go there. So, and before we do that, Craig, I like to try and remember in the middle of episodes to ask, like, how can people connect with you? I mean, one place sounds like probably BitClout, right? Anywhere else? And then also, I know you mentioned that you guys are looking for writers and media buyers. So I'll give you the chance to talk about that, and then we'll keep going with the questions. So where do they connect? And then what are you looking for?
Yeah, so we are actively hiring writers and media buyers at Golden Hippo. I even set up a special email address for this call, writers@goldenhippo.com. If you want to send us a resume, samples, cover letter. We're a professional organization. So, while we appreciate the personalized sales letters, I got to show you some of the stuff I get, man. It's amazing. Where is this? Oh, dude, this guy, he might be on the call. His name is Jordan. He sent me this amazing direct mail package. It was, came in this envelope.
Oh, nice.
But it's Fast Company cover with me on it. It's got like some of my big goals, like saving the dolphins. It's got like the little handwritten tag, and then it had the sales letter, yours free, emails for Golden Hippo to test. I love this stuff. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, when it was time for me to introduce this gentleman to my copy chief, I said, okay, also include your resume and a proper cover letter, because this is a serious environment here, and you learn skills not just on how to write kick-ass copy, but how to be a kick-ass business person at this company. So yeah, we're hiring for writers and media buyers right now, and it's an exciting time. The company's growing fast. It was one of those weird things last year, COVID hit, and you almost feel guilty talking about it, but I mean, the world is home. They're watching videos and they're thinking about health. So we had tremendous growth over the last year, and this year we're up a little bit as well. And so we're looking for great people to bring onto our team. And I think we have the world's best training program for writers, where you get paid as you train. And we have some studs and studettes on our team that are writing the most successful promos on the internet. And also the cool thing about Golden Hippo is when you write something good, it's going to get seen by millions of people, which was a challenge with some of the people I've mentored that aren't quite ready, that, they write something, no one can see it, and that was something I was very fortunate when I worked for Eben. Is my first piece of copy. Well, it took 6 months before I wrote something that he would mail out to the email list, because I had to get good. But when I did write something good enough, it went out to 1 million people, so that's great because you can actually get data quickly. So yeah, please, writers@goldenhippo.com, come join us, media buyers too. And it's an environment where you really will sharpen your knife and kick some butt.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's an awesome opportunity for for writers, for media buyers. And when we do the replay on YouTube, put it up on iTunes, all of that, we'll make sure that it is linked in there as well, so that you again, for people who are watching now or are going to watch, I would not miss that. Do they need to move to LA, Craig?
Oh man, such a great question. It's a debate right now.
Yeah.
It is a debate because we were so firm on come to the office up until COVID. And now we're thinking about these policies and what it's going to look like in the future. We don't have a firm answer yet. I'd say definitely send in an application if you're interested. I think the world's changing, so not sure, but we'd love to hear applications and meet people from all over the place. So yeah, let us know. I have to be protective of my time these days because we're just doing a lot of new partnerships and exciting things. I think people know we have Tony Horton as one of our brand partners now, Dr. Gundry, of course. Oh man, can I say this person? I guess I'll say it. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but we're doing a survival brand with Chuck Norris.
Oh, nice. That is amazing.
Yeah. So that's really exciting. So I do a lot of these partnerships and deal with the people. The chat's blowing up. I love it.
Chuck Norris.
We're so pumped with that. But I got to be selective with my time. But I do mentor the people that work at Golden Hippo. I hands-on personally go over their copy and work with them because, I remember where I was. It's been almost 20 years now, and I want to create the next group of A-list copywriters. And as Stefan, as there's only like 5 of us or something in the whole world, and I think maybe 10, because I know I got a few of them here at Golden Hippo that people don't know yet, but yeah, that's my my aim with this. So
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, Chuck Norris just broke the chat. Okay, a couple other questions, and yeah, then eventually we'll answer some Q&A. So I know there's one question in there. One thing that came to mind is what I deal with a lot, as a mentor to many copywriters through Copy Accelerator and everything, is a lot of the freelancers see the revenue numbers with like offer ownership, and so they want to create their own offer, right? And because in their head they're like, well, I can stop trading time for money, which isn't necessarily true, as you know, having created offers. But there's an allure to it, and then often Justin, my partner, and I will advise them, not to hurry to do that, because like there's a lot of headaches, unforeseen headaches. So I guess the question is just any advice you would give to a copywriter who, has been writing for, let's say, a couple of years. They feel like they've had some wins. They feel pretty good. They don't think they're the best in the world, but they feel solid. And then they're tempted to create their own offer, like say in the health space or really whatever, but especially the health space, since you're in that space and that's where a lot of these writers want to go. What kind of advice would you give to them?
that's a great question. So as you know, you'd be better to answer this question than I would. I'd be curious to get your take, because I believe you either currently have an offer or you recently had one. Is it, and did you step away from it, or what's the latest?
Yeah, I was partnered in one that there's a friend's like health supplement company. He already had it. They were at like 5 million a year revenue. I helped them get to like 20 million, but then I did step away. And the reasons why on my end were, I mean, it wasn't like we used like real people and it was real stories, but it was a little bit of like aggressive stuff that I was like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to be doing this. But also, I mean, transparently, that was the catalyst that made me do it. But beyond that, it was also like, I just wasn't, there's a lot of headaches, right? To the point I made and stuff that I was like, I don't know if I really want to be dealing with. I don't need to be doing this. I'm not that passionate about it. I don't want to, have to just all this crap of like merchant accounts and, just all the stuff that goes into it. So yeah, that's why some of the reasons I stepped away from it.
Yeah. So, I'm fortunate. I have business partners that are really good at that.
Right.
I'm not. I almost wrote a book called Notrepreneur because I'm just not an entrepreneur. I'm a writer and a marketer, So if it was me running all that stuff, the company would have failed a long time ago. And we also had a huge advantage. We started Golden Hippo in like 2009, 2010, so we've been building out these systems, So, I mean, I've got like, I don't know, 30 video editors or something, 20 or 30 media buyers, 20 copywriters. And that's what it takes. And the ROIs are not what they used to be, so we're more about scale now than we are those quick profits. And the people that I do see that are able to edge something out where it makes money, it's typically like you described, where they're running something super aggressive that they can run for a year or so, and then it'll get banned or slapped or just burn out. And then they have to go back to square one and start something new. And it's not really like a sustainable thing. It's more of a money maker than a business.
Right.
So I think it's a tough time to get into the health space right now, because also too, the networks these days, as you may know, is they don't want you to be testing your crap AB BS like whiteboard stuff anymore. They want the polished thing up front, And so it's a lot harder to do AB testing today than it used to be, back when you could just put words and voice and that would be good to go, So I think it's a tougher game. I think we're lucky that we started back when it was, lucky that I had my business partners who, there's 4 of us tackling these issues. If it was only any 2 of us, company wouldn't have done as well. There has to be these pieces come into play. And also, I think you need a copy advantage. And when I say a copy advantage, I mean, I don't think a B+ copywriter is going to be able to compete anymore. I think you need a Stefan Georgi or someone like that in-house. And the reason I say in-house too is because we all write things that tank, I don't know what my exact track record is. I'd say I'm probably 3 for 4 is my guess on things that work. So you hire me, which, you know, I don't freelance, but let's say you do. Let's say you get the number 4.
Right.
It wasn't like I tried any less on the 4th package. It just, you know, some things don't work, you know? So I've had that experience too, trying to hire every freelancer. And, you know, can we talk, Stefan, openly about
Yeah, absolutely.
So we, you know, we tried to do some business together, and you delivered the copy on time. The first one didn't work. You did a great deep rewrite. You went and did your research, and it still didn't beat our in-house guy, you know, which I get my ass kicked by our in-house writers all the time. It's not an ego thing. It's just, you don't know what's going to happen, what's going to work. And that was me actively hiring the number 1 available person in the world. You know, that's just how it goes. Now, if I had hired you for a 4-package deal or something, I mean, I bet, you know, at least one of those is going to work, you know, probably more. Maybe that's the way someone could do it. But yeah, it's a tough game. And that's why when people also ask me too, no matter what type of business they're in, what they should do on the copy front. And, you know, if they hire people, I say hire Stefan if you can get him, because he's serious about his craft. He's worth every penny. He'll deliver you the stuff on time. As you know, Stefan, I've hired other A-list people who have ran away with the money, including someone whose name has been mentioned on this call. I'm not going to say who it is again, but that guy just literally took the money and ran away and never delivered the sales letter. And then I've gotten other people that, you know, have sent in the thing, and it just, like, one guy who's a guy everyone's name would know, took 6 months to get the letter to us. Every month he'd write me a sales letter on why he didn't have the sales letter. So funny. But, you know, it finally came, and it was 80 pages long, which I was like, okay, it's a different style than me. Maybe we'll put it up. And we put it up, and it just didn't do very well. And, you know, we finally got it working. One of my guys like went through it like 3 months later. He pulled it out of the done pile and like did a deep edit. He got it breaking even. And I spent a full week, like a focused week, like at the coffee shop, like, you know, and we got it working, and it ended up being a success. But yeah, that's like our issue. You know, hiring freelancers is really tough. So that said, there is always room for great direct response marketing. I just feel like health is kind of busy. So I've seen it brought to other categories like Eargo hearing aids, which I think just SPAC'd for like a $3 billion valuation or something with 30 million of revenue. I mean, I see stuff like that and I'm like, damn, I'm in the wrong business. Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels, I think they do, you know, 100 million plus, not 200 million. They may, but I don't know. Something like that. I think they got like, you know, billion plus valuation, you know. I mean, there's all these things where you can get bigger valuation nowadays. So if I was starting over, I wouldn't get into health. I haven't seen anyone really come up in the last few years that is super legally compliant. I see that, like, I mean, I heard Research is absolutely murdering it, but I don't see them on the big network. So I don't really know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we won't go too down the path of Research, but yeah, I think
VShred is a good one that's come up.
VShred one example, but yeah, overall I agree. I mean, G Plans has done decently well, but to your point, it is true. It's like, if you want to play the cash grab game for like a year, and your model is you launch these things, you make money for a year, you sort of sleep uneasily at night because you're worried about your dubious claims, and then the offer shuts down, or you get a letter from a legal agency, or traffic dies out, or whatever it is, and you try it again. It's like very exhausting to do that, but it's very resource intensive to build a large health brand, right? Like you guys have done it with your partners. And funnily enough, VShred people, Vince is the spokesperson, Nick's the CEO, but then you've got Kevin, who's basically running a massive team of media buyers, and you've got Roger, who's their CTO, doing all this tech stuff, and they've got just like you guys, a very large team. And so for like the sort of solopreneur who then wants to start an offer and make a lot of money, like, yeah, health is a really challenging one. And I mean, dude, like Jason Gutasi, I don't know if you know Jason or not, great guy, good media buyer. He ran a lot of traffic for me back in the day. And he has a really successful children's publishing book company now. And one of the reasons he did that was because he's got so tired of Facebook telling him no to everything that he was like, well, what can I do that Facebook's just not going to have an issue with? And he was like, children's books. Like Facebook is just not going to get for running children's books. And he's built into like a really healthy 8-figure business, and they sell more books than, best-selling author. Oh yeah, it's really awesome. he's a great guy. I don't know if you've never met, if you ever wanted to intro him, a really smart guy, and they're doing awesome stuff. But yeah, I think that's great advice, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, I always get the calls later. Like, hey, Craig, do you want to buy this offer that we had that used to be doing great volume and it's kicked off all the networks? Maybe you can use your connections to get it back on, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I want to go to BitClout. Maybe one last question for you before I go to BitClout, which is, I guess so speaking of that, because we talked about it health specifically, but in 2021, what is the place for sort of like DR and like long form? Because I'm looking at a lot of eCom stuff that incorporates DR elements, and part of me feels like, oh, I want to go play there. Like there's these people that their offers are converting at like 30% with 3% with like an $80 AOV, but they're at a decent amount of scale on Facebook and YouTube and whatever. And I'm like, well, I could come in and I think I could probably get them to 4 or 5%. I could probably get the AOV up to 120 and stuff like that. But then there's issues of e-commerce.
I just want to make sure. Are you talking about like people selling pans and clothing and stuff like that? Or e-com, what do you?
Definitely health stuff, but even gadgets, like interesting, different like consumer products. Yeah, mostly when I talk about e-com, so sometimes it is like supplement companies. Like we were just looking at one for Copy Starter today that one of our writers is working on. It's like an eczema cream, and it was like they're like basically 3% across the board with an $80 AOV. And I'm like, there's a lot of opportunity on that page, right? But again, I see it with
that's a tough one to scale. I can tell you, I tried to do eczema cream with Gundry.
Yeah,
it's tough to scale. That's some of these categories too.
Right. But like, what if that was like a toilet cleaner? It's like a toilet cleaning invention that automatically cleans.
Oh yeah, Poopery is like what, 300 million a year business or something like that,
Yeah, but they use DR elements, and people sort of, I think a lot of times people who are on the hardcore DR side don't realize how easily applicable some of their skills are about optimization and things like that to more e-com oriented. But I guess back to my question though, yeah, I mean, where do you see it, today and beyond as far as, long form, building a brand using long form copy? Is that still a good idea? Is it like on its way out? I'm just curious to get your take, and I know other people would be interested as well.
Yeah, I mean, we still have mostly long form. Just kind of go back to a little bit of what we were talking about earlier. If you bring DR to a world that hasn't seen it before, it's magic.
Right.
So anyone here seen the ads for Caraway pots and pans? Those are amazing, and they're short, but they basically say your pots and pans have toxins in them. These don't. And it's just like, DR 101, right? Like problem solution type stuff. And there's a plant company, like direct to consumer plants. I forget the name of it, but they do some cool ads, and the hearing aid company I mentioned earlier. So these companies don't do long form per se. Long form is tough, man. Long form, the reason it's tougher now than it used to be is because you can't launch with your crappy video. And to make a shiny, fancy video is really expensive, and you can lose a lot of money. I think that's why more people don't do long form, is because they will launch their first VSL or whatever it is, 30-minute VSL that's done well. It costs a lot to produce. And then if it doesn't work, it's hard to edit because you just made it so fancy. But I don't know, is it going away? I mean, I hear it's once a year, I hear it's going away,
right?
But it hasn't gone away. Once a year, Facebook calls us up. They say, hey guys, today we want to talk to you guys about doing some shorter form ads and shorter form video. I will say we use a lot more short form stuff than we did, 5 and 10 years ago. And I guess it would be more of those like eCom style ads that you're used to seeing. We do run those now in conjunction with our other stuff, which we never did back in, 2015. So I don't think long form is going away. But I think it's just harder to launch long form now because the networks are so strict with how well it has to present. If you think about it, a long form video is a network's worst nightmare. I mean, what does everybody want on their site, right? If you own a website,
right,
you want the BMW ad that has the fancy car and the sexy couple getting it out of it that no one clicks on. They stay on your site and they consume more content, right? The last thing you want is some, tricky ad with like a penis looking elbow dipped in a jar of, red bananas that says, one weird trick to detox your colon at home. Like that's the last thing people want on their website. And then not only is that on the website, but then it pulls someone off of your website for an hour. They're never coming back, So I think that's another moat that we have at Golden Hippo is we built these network relationships many years ago. So we still get some leeway in running this stuff. I don't know anyone who's tried to do it soon. That said, though, I mean, you guys all know the old rule of thumb is that long copy beats short copy, as long as it's interesting.
Right.
So if you're speaking to someone about their dreams, hopes, and desires, they want to hear as much as you have to say. So it's a great question. I don't think the question's going away anytime soon. I also don't think long form is going away anytime soon, but I will say we are doing more short form now. And man, seeing some of the traction that these Amazon businesses are getting is really blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Like Smarty Pants Vitamins just had a big exit to Unilever. I don't remember their, I only heard speculation on what their numbers were, but it was, mid 8 figures or something like that on Amazon. Kids Vitamins. It's longer copy. If you go on their web page, it's longer copy than some of the competitors, but it's not a long form VSL. So I think there's a lot of different ways to, skin the cat these days. And I would say that there's no wrong or right. I mean, there's also a completely different way. If you look at vital proteins, I always talk trash on influencer marketing. And every time I do, a bunch of ad agencies and, influencer agencies come after me on Twitter. And I still hate influencer marketing. I've just spent a lot of money trying to make it work and not made it work. That said, Vital Proteins, they sponsored all these influencers to hold up the collagen powder and go to Tulum and things like that, and had the biggest booths at Expo West when you go to the conventions. It's like the Vital Proteins booth is like 5 times as big as the rest of them, just blowing investor capital. Sells to Nestle for $750 million and a pretty solid deal for the founder too. So, there's a lot of different ways to play this game. Ritual is another one that is raised a lot of money, doing a lot of revenue.
Yeah.
Not long form. They'll probably have a big exit. I don't think they're making a lot of money, but they're doing a lot of revenue. And that's what some of these acquirers want to see. And it's got beautiful branding. And that's another thing too, is I think people in our space think that they can't learn from these companies. They don't even look at them, but I'm always studying these companies and ordering their products and seeing what they do, and thinking about how can we incorporate some of that stuff, like there's brands in our portfolio that I've considered raising money for and doing some models like that. I don't think you should limit yourself. And I think it's been one of our secrets to success is looking at other worlds, like, the startup worlds, the brand advertising worlds, and taking the best of those and peppering them in to create a unique system.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I think there's a lot of gold there for people who listen. And I think, going back to the person who wants to start their own company, it sounds kind of obvious, but at least I would imagine you'd agree. If you don't, feel free to say it, but it's the kind of thing about what you're trying to build and being real with yourself, right? Because there's people who build like a cash flow lifestyle business, like great, right? Awesome. And that's what like offers generally are. And you could make lots of money doing that and invest and whatever. If you're trying to build something to sell it, then, it can be a totally different game. Because if you're getting, investment or venture capital, or you're raising rounds, and then you're, basically you don't care about being profitable. All you care about is growth, and like doing it with metrics that your investors are happy with, so you can get to that exit. But that's a very difficult game, right? For every company that we hear those crazy exits, there's like, the other 9 that sort of got here and then fell. But
yeah, or they have the big exit in the media, but the founder didn't actually make much more than $1 million or $2 million bucks or something like that. There's a lot of those too, because they raised too much money or had bad things happen or whatever. So
I know a company that sold for like 1.3 or 1.6 billion, but the founder barely got anything. It's
which one?
I won't say it on this, but I can.
Oh, friend's company. Okay, got it.
But
I had a friend take his company public for $500 million, and he made like $3 million bucks.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just because he raised too much money. It wasn't in our space at all. And so, you gotta be careful when you're doing that type of stuff. But the great thing about copywriting, Stefan, as you know, is if you get really good, you make a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's pretty carefree, especially if you have either an in-house position or like one good steady client, something like that. I would hate to be a freelance person trying to play that game of, trying to juggle a lot of clients. But like, I think Clayton Makepeace worked with Weiss Investments for many, many years. It was like his only client and he was making a killing, And so I guess it also depends on like how good of a copywriter you are. If you think you got what it takes to be world-class and you're willing to put the time in, then you might as well get there.
Right.
Because you'll make a lot of money on the way up. You'll make a lot of money at that position. And then you're in actually weird position because you can make a lot of money doing exactly what you're doing. But then you also have that unfair advantage if you go start your own company.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I mean, I think it's really good advice. And I think people, just think long and hard about what you really want and what do you want to do. Because some people want to start a company for the feeling of like accomplishment and all that. And it's like, great. But if you're miserable because you suddenly have a giant team and you're trying to manage it and you don't know what's going on and, there's good days and bad days. And then you're like, or I could just have gotten really good at writing copy and, gotten like made whatever, $500,000 a year, even a couple $1 million a year of royalties with the right company. And I think you have to weigh that out. But so two things. One, everyone remember, if you go to writers@goldenhippo.com, if you want to, potentially become a writer for Golden Hippo, if you want to apply, include your resume, a cover letter, samples, I would assume, right? But that is a special email that Craig set up, writers@goldenhippo.com. They're looking for media buyers as well. And you don't necessarily need to move to LA. That's open for debate within the Golden Hippo organization. So if in doubt, apply. I mean, it's like applying for one of the, greatest like companies that we've got, and just marketing and direct response and consumer products. Craig is a great copy chief, even having worked with him on that one project, which, as he alluded to, did not work, but from out on my end. But yeah, and to that point, it's funny because I literally just had something for another client where I wrote 3 things for them. One there are 2 controls, one new one, but one beat the control by over 100%. One beat the control by like 30%, but that control was more established. And then one's just totally like tanking, right? And I'm trying to figure it out, but it's like, and I put a post about it too. So it's like, I'm still batting, like basically 2 out of 3. And so, yeah, that's great. But like, if you just hire me for the one that tanks, right? And no writer is going to go 100% anytime. Just a good lesson for writers to know as well, including myself.
Yeah, the other thing is, it's the magic is in the rewrite often.
Yeah,
I remember one of my most frustrating experiences. It was actually with the pre-bio Thrive sales letter, which I'm sure some people have seen. First one I put up didn't work. Second one I put up didn't work. And these are deep rewrites. These are like rewriting the whole intro and the body and all that, everything but the close. Third one I put up just as okay. And then I get this new idea. And this new idea is like, this is the one, And I spent like another 2 weeks writing this crazy big idea for this thing. And I put that up and it loses to the third one. I was so bummed, but fortunately the third one, because this is another thing too, Stefan, that I think people don't understand, is it's not as much about the writer as it was back when the sales letter was the only thing the prospect saw when it came in your mailbox or in the newspaper or something like that. Now the media buyer is a critical part of the puzzle. So my third draft of this thing, our amazing media team was tweaking and tuning and doing their thing along with our amazing video editors and split testing different video and, different types of buttons on the page and colors and, headlines and all this stuff. And they got my third draft working really well. But, that's the writer's life. You never know what's going to work, and even the things that you're most excited about can totally tank. Oh man, I wrote a letter for Dr. Gundry chocolates. I was so excited about this. It was the first supplement chocolate. It was a heart healthy chocolate. I knew how big of a market heart health was. And I poured my heart and soul into this letter. And that one I guess the good news is it just like tanked immediately. It was like, no, don't even bother rewriting this one. It was like made like 2 sales or something like that, off thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. You just, like it's true. Again, I think but it's good for a writer. I mean, again, because writers, we're fragile, right? Especially if when you're earlier on in your career, and because I think all good writers and like A-list writers, you learn that lesson. So then you're like, you want everything to be a home run. Like I'm still pissed, right? When something doesn't smash it, I'm still like bummed about it. Because there's like pride and workmanship and if you're excited about the idea, which you should be for anything you're writing, but you realize that that's part of the game too. And so, yeah, it's just important, I think, for younger writers to understand, like, it doesn't mean like if you write something that you think is great and it doesn't go well, it doesn't mean that you're like a piece of shit, that you're a bad writer, that you're, any of that stuff. Like it just means it didn't work. I mean, if you write 30 things that all go live over like 3 years and none of them do good, and so for a really good client who has really dialed in media buying, then maybe you should consider a career change. But like, having like stuff that doesn't work, that's everybody. So Craig, one last question for me, and I think we just have one question in the Q&A, which you guys all fucked up by not asking more questions. You literally had Craig Clemens on the call, but now we don't have time for a ton of them. But BitClout, I mean, like I was like heard about it. I was just at the 100 million mastermind, and like, Dan Fleischman's talking about it, and he's like, I promise you BitClout's gonna be important, and all these people are writing down BitClout. And I went through the website. I still haven't set mine up, and I need to. It's on my to-do list to do. I don't know if I'll do anything with it or not. I just want to have one. But I know you're on it. You're doing a lot with it. So can you explain to people who are, watching, listening, or will watch or listen later on the replays, what is BitClout? Why is it important? And what are you doing on that platform?
Sure. So BitClout is decentralized Twitter on the blockchain, and everyone has a coin. So when you create a profile, you have your own coin, which is kind of like an NFT for a person. If you know what an NFT is, they're calling this movement social tokens. And so unlike Twitter, where you post something out there and you get, random people on there, and maybe you got 10,000 followers, but you don't know who any of them are. On BitClout, you can have people who invest in your coin. And when they invest in your coin, they're supporting you. You get a little piece of that investment into your pocket to go do your craft. So if you think of Patreon, which is $1 billion plus company that has, artists can go on there and people can give $20 a month to their favorite artist to support their work, so that artist doesn't go flip burgers or whatever. BitClout is a way for creators to monetize, and it's right there on platform. So it's really fascinating. So I jumped on the platform, just testing it out, and I invested in it, not super early, but in the public token sale, and started playing around on it. And I was just posting normal stuff. I was like posting some copywriting things on there and things like that. And then I was having a good time geeking out with all my friends who were buying other people's coins. So you can, what they did, they took the first 15,000 Twitter profiles by following. So like Barack Obama, Katy Perry, Donald Trump, everyone who was on, they had to pull Donald Trump out of the ethers because he kicked off of Twitter. But the top 15,000 Twitter followers, and they made them profiles on BitClout, pre-reserved. So squatters couldn't go and claim that name. So I couldn't go pretend to be Steve Aoki and have a fake, thing and take some of the coin money, right? So they did that with the first 15,000, and you can bet on these people, and their thoughts are that you buy this coin of, say, like Jake Paul. Jake Paul has a coin, then he has his boxing fight. If Jake Paul gets a knockout, in theory, they hope his coin will go up because he'll be a more like desirable person. Or if Jake Paul loses or says something racist at the end of the fight, in theory, his coin will go down because people will think he's a scumbag, So there's all types of ways to speculate. I mean, for the first time ever, like everyone has a token on their head, and you can make money with it. You can bet on your friends, you can even bet on your enemies if it's just about the money. I see people like buying both Donald Trump and Alexandria Cortez coin. They'll have them both in their portfolio. I don't care about political beliefs. I think both of these coins are going to appreciate as more people come on the platform. So I think it has something like, I don't know, a few tens of thousands of users, maybe 100,000, 200,000, something like that now, but it's growing really fast. And all Instagram influencers are getting on there, because if you think about it, if you're an Instagram influencer, you usually got to like sign some brand deal and go hold up a jar of Vital Proteins or something to get paid, right? Here, people are just paying you because they like you. It's got that Patreon model. They're buying your token. And when they buy your token, you have something called the founder reward, and that's how much you decide to take yourself. So most people set that to 10%. So let's say Stefan buys 10 grand of my tokens. I get $1,000 immediately. And he's got 9 grand still riding in my coin. So if my coin price goes up from there, then later he might be able to sell that 9,000 and make a profit. And I actually did the first ever sponsored post on BitClout. I made an announcement that I was going to do the first sponsored post on my page. I randomly, even though I'm not a big social media guy, I became the biggest account on BitClout that is active. Elon Musk is still ahead of me. Naval Ravikant's still ahead of me, but of the accounts that are being used, I was the biggest. So I have the like highest, almost the highest amount of followers besides the founder and all that. So I announced a sponsored post, but it was super interesting because I said, I'm doing this first sponsored post. It's up for auction. The auction ends on this day, but here's the thing. You're not going to just write me a check and I'm gonna make the post and it's gone. It's an investment into my coin. So you may ROI on this ad twice. You may ROI on people buying whatever it is, or following whatever page it is you want me to post. You might also ROI on holding my coin if you think it's going to go up. So super interesting model. And the dynamics here are fascinating. So I've been geeking out on that a lot. And yeah, I did. I had a 3-way tie for the sponsored post. Stefan, I had 3 people tie at 90 grand each investment. And that's something you're not going to pay 90 grand for me to do a sponsored post. I only have 6,000 followers on there. If it was a pay 90 grand, gone, poof, waste of money. But you're also investing in me and it looks like I'm growing. So it might be an investment. And my founder rewards at 10%. I decided when I first started that I'm going to donate all that founder reward to charity. So I've raised like $1.5 million in a month for charity water and ocean conservation, just in founder reward. It's insane. So if someone was wanting to use it to make money, like that would have been a profit in my pocket of the $1.5 million. Now, here's the crafty thing though. If I cashed out that $1.5 million, my coin price would tank. Because I am a big holder of myself, because of that founder reward I'm collecting. And I bought some of my own coin too, which they say you should do. So you got to think about this, and people are still figuring out the best practices, So I'm going to be slowly selling off my coin, but I'm going to talk with my investors first. And we're going to decide. I'll probably sell 1 coin a month. My coin is currently valued at about $32,000. So sell 1 a month, and then I will give them the opportunity to buy the dip. If they don't buy it, I'll probably buy the dip myself, which is investing myself, which might be a good investment if I believe my coin's going to go up long term, right? And I'll keep track of what I put in myself and how much I raised for the charity, But that's a plan. I'm going to sell like 1 a month or something like that, and either buy the dip myself or let my investors buy the dip. I'll put the founder reward to 0. I'll say, hey, investors, if you want to buy the dip, the founder reward 0 right now, you can buy back in and hold more Craig coin. And then I'll sell that. And, it's amazing because with those 3 sponsored posts, 90K each, right? You can build a well in Africa with charity water that gives a village clean water for like 20 years for 10 grand. And so founder reward, I made 9 grand on each of the sponsored posts. So I'm throwing in another 3 grand on top. So it'll be 30 grand. So we're going to build 3 wells in Africa. Uganda, actually, we already picked the country and they're already like getting going. I think they're going to be drilled in July. All because of BitClout, this sponsored post thing. So it's a lot of fun because the platform's brand new. So me announcing a sponsored post in there was a big deal because there would never been done on there before. And then it was a big deal because it was like, whoa, is it going to ROI because of the views, or is it going to ROI because it's an investment? Maybe both. So there's all kinds of interesting things. I also bid on someone else. They did the first ever physical sponsored post, and I won this. This guy is the owner of the Israeli soccer team. I forget the name of the team, but I bid on it. It was a $15,000 investment into his coin. And they put up Craig $, which is the sign for my token in the game, in the football game. It was like in the stadium, and they showed pictures and things like that. I don't think that ROI'd, but I probably maybe ROI on this guy's token because he's using the platform creatively. So I see this guy doing creative things. I think, oh, I put 15,000 in his coin. He's probably going to keep doing creative things, which will probably get more people to buy his coin later. So that'll probably be a good investment. So fascinating social dynamics. I love the platform. I'm just at Craig on there, and I'm also doing a mastermind group on there. I don't host a paid mastermind group right now. It's been a decision for me because there's a lot of fun that can be had meeting with great people like you guys do in the accelerator. You get to hang out with smart people all the time, and cash flow is positive. The people who put in cash get a big ROI. Thought about it for a while, but I never did it because just doing other things. But with this BitClout thing, I was just jamming out with all my friends on and investing on the platform so much in different creator coins. I thought, what? Why don't I invite my top 10 coin holders to be on the Zoom with me and my friends? And so I said, okay, you buy some of my coin. If you get my top 10, you can be on this private Zoom. And then I reached out to Jake Paul and got him to come on the Zoom. And so pretty soon it was a private Zoom with me, the top investors inside, and Jake Paul. So people started buying my coin like crazy. And that made my coin price go up. You know, it was just like a basic mastermind group idea. So there's all kinds of things you can do on the platform. People are still figuring it out. Pamela Anderson is on there. If you're in her top holders, you get like a signed photo of her. Neil Strauss is on there. If you're in his top 10 holders, you get a signed book. You know, there's all kinds of interesting things you can do on there. And it's been a lot of fun too. So check it out. It's, you know, it's, you need some Bitcoin to play around on it. You can't put US dollars in it, but it's a lot of fun and definitely a sign of weird things to come when everyone has a price in their head.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I'm definitely gonna finish setting mine up after but that's cool, man. That's cool that you're playing. Yeah, I just went to BitClout too, and I saw it was like literally Elon Musk and like 2 other people, and then just like Craig.
Well, here's something else that's happening now too. This is funny. So I've been up in that spot for like a week, and it was a big deal when I got up there. Just yesterday, one day, some guy rises up above me. And you're like, what's going on? What is this guy doing? He's not doing any sort of mastermind group. People are like, I didn't invest this guy's coin. Well, you can track everything on the blockchain, right? So he put $1 million into his own coin.
Oh, wow.
And then some other account that hasn't been active at all on the platform put in another $1 million into his account like today. And, you know, that's a lot of money to inflate the coin price. So it's like, what's going on? You know, and then you think about the future where Nike's going to come in and just pop 10 million bucks into their coin to be number one.
Right.
Because why not? That's not a lot of money to them. Yeah. So
yeah. Wild. That's so interesting. Damn, man. Yeah, we are in a crazy time for sure. Cool. Okay. I want to be respectful of your time. Speaking of time, we did have some questions come in. Do you have 5 minutes if I rapid fire you?
Sure. Let's go rapid fire.
Okay, cool. So for everyone who put a question in, I'm gonna Ed, you want to read them off to Craig? I know, Ed, you've been silent. I appreciate you being here, and hopefully you're just enjoying. And
I'm here listening, appreciating Craig's genius, man. That's all.
Cool. Yeah, you want to read them off, and we'll let Craig just sort of tackle them.
For sure. All right, Craig. What advice from Kieran? Craig, what advice do you have for new copywriters to help them get good? You mentioned studying bullets, but what else? I currently have one client I'm writing emails for, and I'm using the RMBC method to help write the emails, which is Stefan's method. I want to deliver the best email copy she's ever seen. So any advice you can give me to improve my copy helps.
So email copy is a continual conversation. And I think the best thing to do is, I mean, you know, this is not rocket science or anything like that, but study the guys who are the best at that. So who I would say are like Frank Kern, Jeff Walker, Stefan and Justin for sure. I remember I got so mad when I forget which one of you guys launched the newsletter second. I think it was you, Stefan. I was like, now you bastard, now I got 2 compelling emails in my inbox every day. I got to read both of them. You know, no offense to you or Justin, but I actually had to filter those into my internet marketing newsletters pile because I was just reading them too much. Like every single day I was reading yours and Justin's above everyone else. So that's why you haven't gotten a response from me in a while, because I was also responding like at least once a week because it would just be so compelling, you know? Yeah. So I would just, say study Stefan, Jeff Walker, Frank Kern. They're all great at that.
That's awesome. By the way, Frank Kern also reads my emails and responds to me like all the time, which is funny because a lot of the best marketers out there love to read the other marketers and see what they're doing. It's like not like you're like become too cool for shit. You're like, you want to know what's going on. So flattered though that you. Cool. Ed, let's keep rapid firing.
Beautiful. From Michael McGovern. Hey Craig, what should a direct response company look for in a partnership with a doctor?
You know, I think having someone who's easy to work with is very, very important and not something you would think about. In the beginning, I was looking for doctors with the best credentials and, you know, the most well-spoken and, you know, if they had celebrity patients or whatever, that was good. But some doctors are really tough to work with. Some doctors will not approve any sort of copy, you know, they'll take your copy and they'll rewrite it to sound like a textbook, and then it doesn't convert and they won't let you change it back. And so, you know, I would just say someone that's friendly, easy to work with, that you want to hang out with. Like Dr. Gundry and I, we're boys. Like he calls me his son he never had. You know, we go out to dinner with his wife and my wife, and you know, we just have a great working relationship. Same with Beverly Hills MD doctors. I used to hang out with them in nightclubs back, you know, 15 years ago. That's how I met those guys. You know, so I would say that'd be, yeah, the thing that we look for, number one.
Yeah.
And
Like I've ended I'll get on a Zoom and I'll wrap within 15 minutes. I can just tell. If I can just tell someone's gonna be a pain in the butt, let's be like, hey, listen, I'm glad we got connected. You know, I wanna anything I can do to help you grow your supplement business, let me know. We're actually full right now. So because you can just tell, So
which
I mean, there has been a couple though that I've really wanted to work with that we've been more accommodating for. But usually it's a mistake, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because usually whenever I do that, you're not just in general when you talk yourself into doing something like about a person, a judgment about a person, and you go against it, I generally end up regretting that, right? I'm like, I should have followed my gut or my instinct because all the stuff you tried to rationalize when you were in like the possibilities phase and like the actualities phase of working with that person regularly, you're like, man, this person just kind of sucks, right? Like, but has there been a case where that has been the case though, where somebody seemed really like, I don't know, like a little bit like off-putting, gruff, like maybe difficult, but you've worked with, obviously don't need to name the name, but then you ended up working with the person and we're like, oh, I'm so glad I worked with them. Have you had that?
There's one. Yeah,
that's good.
There is one, but this person, the first sales letter that they saw, they sent back with so much red on the page. It was like, we might have to end this relationship before it starts.
Mm.
But the person who introduced us was in the marketing world. And so I talked to that person and said, hey, can you have a chat with so-and-so first and let them know that this is, you got to communicate with someone in Nebraska who's never heard of these supplements before. This is how it has to be,
Right.
And so I had an intermediary. So yeah.
Got you. Cool.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, I think Eli's question is pretty similar to Michael's. Yeah. We could skip that. And then other people are trying to sneak in their questions now, but let's just do Santiago's and then we'll
yeah, I was thinking that too.
Cool.
Santiago asks, any particular advice that you usually give to your in-house writers?
Oh, actually, I had a different one. I had the one of that one's good, but I had sorry, yeah. Dan's about looking back at his old stuff. Sorry, two, Craig. We'll go fast, but two last.
Sure. Yeah.
So in-house writers.
It's different every time. I think when you end up editing a lot of other people's copy for a long time, you get a sixth sense of what they need to do differently. And so it is unique. I don't know if this is a good answer, but I looked at someone's copy last week and I said, look, your copy is strong in outlining points, but you're just not entertaining. You're not exciting. So for the next week, you're into sports, right? You're going to write a thing about the daily sporting events every day that you're really excited about. And that's what you're going to write. You're not going to think about selling people or anything like that. You're going to write about the daily sporting events. It's going to be like, if you consider it like a newsletter about sports that you're really pumped up about the MMA fight, something like that. And I gave him that assignment for a week, not to write anything else, so I know that probably helps zero, but it's different for every person. Some people are too exciting and making too many jokes and just aren't serious enough and don't sound like a serious doctor talking to someone about a serious problem.
That's great. And I don't know. I generally see it on the side of too dull, not excited enough. Like people get into educator mode, which is we want to educate, but you want to educate while also entertaining, right? And but you're right. I've seen sometimes where it's just so like, it's like if you have a job interview with somebody and they're just cracking jokes and almost like saying personal things about you and trying to laugh about it, and you're like, this is like a little too much. It's a little overboard.
Yeah. Another good exercise if you're too dull is think about your favorite movie, come with your favorite movie, and then write a sales letter on why it's the best movie ever made.
That's great. Cool. Ed, do you want to do Dan's? Yeah, that's awesome.
Last one here from Dan. If you were looking back at your old self, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself when you started your copywriting journey?
That's a great question. I feel like I should have an answer to this question. I would say start writing copy sooner. Don't wait the 2 years. I mean, that was a good experience, but yes, go sooner. I've talked about this on other shows, but there's this pinnacle moment where, so I used to be a fuck off. Like I used to be a very bad procrastinator. There was multiple times when Eben would pull me aside and be like, look, I'm gonna have to fire you if you don't start putting out work like everyone else. And then he figured out how to actually bait me. And he said, look, if you write 10 pages of copy every day and you can do it for 6 months in a row, I'll make sure you're making $100,000 a year. And this is, back in 2005, where that was a ton of money to me. And, smoothies weren't $22. So $100,000 bought a lot more back then. And I did. And, had I done that sooner, I would have gotten better a lot faster. So there's a great book called Turning Pro. It's written by Stephen Pressfield. And it talks about this transition that you make from amateur to professional. It's a quick read. You could probably read it in a day or two. So I would say read that book and turn pro sooner. Because if you're going to do something, why half-ass it? I still could have been just as big of a party animal as I was back then. The wasted time wasn't not having a social life. It was just procrastinating and, refreshing MySpace, which was the social network at the time, and, just delaying work. But Turning Pro is a great book. And Andy has another one called the War of Art on Beating Procrastination. Both of those are I think, must reads and will help you get serious with your craft. And yes, I did get to hang out with Tom from MySpace. And that was a pinnacle moment for me.
Damn, that's going to be an open loop for if we ever have a part two.
Yeah, someone mentioned that in the chat. Yeah.
I know, no, that's good. I think he added me on Facebook a long time ago because you were Facebook friends with him and you and I became friends, and then he added me, and then I'm like, wait, is this actually Tom from and it was showing all his travel photography. I don't know if he's still on Facebook. This was a couple years back, but I remember being so starstruck. I'm like, Tom from MySpace. So the fact that you got to hang out with him.
Well, he's the nicest guy, and this was in the heyday of MySpace too, so it was actually really cool.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, Craig, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, being so giving, sharing so much incredible information, insights about your story. For everyone who is watching, listening, or who will watch or listen on the replays on YouTube and on iTunes, Golden Hippo, if you're a copywriter, writers at goldenhippo.com to apply to write with Golden Hippo.
And for media buyers, just on our website, there's a careers section. It's just, you just go to goldenhippo.com and there's a careers page. And that talks more about the copywriter positions as well. But I'd love to work with, some of the folks from your group one-on-one, Stefan, because the people who've been paying attention to your stuff, they're going to be light years ahead of everyone else that comes in. So it's really fun to work with those type of folks that have been studying the craft, that are serious about becoming the best in the world, and your content is top notch and getting people, to really step their game up. So it's always fun to jam out with you, be a part of it.
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And Craig, any final words of advice, wisdom, asks, anything like that beyond?
Craig Coin.
Craig Coin.
I'm just kidding.
Moon.
What's funny though is Jake Paul. I heard him say in a video. He said they sell a lot of merch, right? Like sweaters and stuff. I heard they do like 10 million a year in merch. And one of his things that he says is always plug. And he's made it into a thing, so he doesn't look like a salesperson. He says, always plug, always plug. Okay, it's time to plug. Merch, go buy my merch, But he makes it cool to be like always pitching. I thought that was a funny, meta marketing move. But last words I'll just say is that copywriting is the most powerful force on earth. It is words and messages that have created world wars and created world peace. You, as a copywriter, are a part of potential world change. You just got to decide how you're going to use it. Are you going to use it for good? Are you going to use it for evil? I think if you use it for good and you're helping people and giving value, then the value comes back to you very much so in return. And if you take the time to become the best in the world, you continue to use it to add value, you're going to become very valuable yourself, both in your bank account and on a status level, getting to meet people from projects that you're passionate about, whether it's, other businesses. I mean, the inbound I get these days is crazy, man, from there was a guy I was helping run for mayor in New York. There's like, big businesses will call me up and be like, hey, we're launching a direct to consumer funnel for the first time ever. So it's really interesting because we feel like there's a lot of us here, but it's not. It's a really tight circle. And if you can get to the top of this game, the whole world is your playground. So you're in the right place with Stefan and Justin.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So everyone, Craig Clemens, again, Craig, thank you. Really appreciate it. And Ed Reay, thank you to you as well for co-hosting and hanging out with us today.
You got it.
Thanks,
Awesome.
guys. All right. Great
Thanks.
to chat.
All right.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Cool. So that wraps up there. Everyone, just last notes, please make sure that you, if you watch on YouTube, that you smash the like button, leave a comment, let Craig and I know that you enjoyed everything. And if you listen on iTunes, make sure you leave a review, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody next time. Thank you all so much.